what is really, what could be done? I'm not sure exactly, although I would say that three kinds of things are always needed, it seems to me, increasingly. One is an ongoing group of expertise and advocacy, because no policy change gets done these days by waiting for government leadership, and no change gets done by a report. Everything is so hard and so complicated that you have to be like a pile driver right now. Just you have to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and not stop until certain changes are made. So one thing is that this kind of high-level advocacy plus science needs to continue, and that's what I would recommend. There's a group of expertise, and it should be empowered to keep this process in an organized way. Once you have organization, you're way ahead of the rest of the world, because the essence of all of this is that there are not standing organized systems for these processes, and water is very high on the list of disorganization. We don't have systems for this kind of integrated water understanding and water use. One thing that I've also found is that this kind of effort, serving as a periodic, persistent advisor at the high level to governments, can make a difference. That's not calling on them to do something. That's sitting with them every 6 months, whether it's the Pakistani leadership or the Indian leadership or the Chinese leadership. It makes a huge difference because they then have to get organized for a meeting every 6 months. They have to pull together the relevant parts of their administration. They may have to take officials from a local area. And so you force a process that otherwise doesn't properly exist. A second thing that I think is extremely important for a group like this is to actually do a couple of projects. I'm not sure what this means in this context. Projects exist at all scales. They exist in a village that is desperate for water. They exist at a district level. They exist in a watershed level. But this kind of group should do something real, like we're going to solve the problem, help locally, I should always say, help solve the problem of X and whatever X is. It is the most eye-opening, educational process in the world to actually do something. Because as soon as you start doing it, 1,001 practical obstacles jump up. They're all solvable if there's core energy, funding, and push to solve them. And to then find one's way through can create a roadmap for many, many other problems in the world. So a group like this needs to solve one or two problems together with local counterparts. And that becomes a compelling model, perhaps for dozens or hundreds of other places. And the third part of this that I think is absolutely crucial, and that Asia Society and its funders and others have to help do, is to maintain the scientific assessment component of this. Because the truth of the matter is that as important as these issues are in daily life, they're also scientifically complex. And there's a tremendous amount of data collection and analysis and processing and modeling that has to go into any kind of sound solution. This is not about common sense. It is not, by and large, in my experience, about homegrown solutions, by the way, because the scale of the challenge has overwhelmed traditional approaches of local communities. Those local communities used to have 1/10 or maybe 1/50th of the population densities, and they weren't competing with water with billions of other people or millions and tens of millions or hundreds of millions of people upstream, and they weren't facing the non-stationarity of human-induced climate change. So traditional systems are being completely overwhelmed all over the world, as much local knowledge as there is. This doesn't mean to disempower local communities. It means that we need serious science to understand the changes that are underway, their scale, and the possible technological opportunities.